The House has resumed. Members, the House is debating the first reading of the Psychoactive Substances Amendment Bill, and Louisa Wall has the call. Just over 6 minutes remaining. Louisa Wall.
Kia ora. Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thought it was appropriate after the dinner break to talk about why this Parliament voted for the Psychoactive Substances Act. And it became a problem for us as a country because on the 1st of August 2013, there were temporary class drug notices that were going to expire. And that would have enabled 30 substances and 50 products that we had deemed unsafe to go back onto the market. And so it was with some urgency that we rushed the bill through. For those people listening, the Minister introduced the bill on the 26th of February. First reading was on the 9th of April. Second reading was on the 27th of June. Committee stages were on the 9th of July. We passed the bill on the 17th of July. And so what my primary point was before the dinner break, Mr Speaker, was that on the 18th of July, when the Psychoactive Substances Act became an act of the New Zealand Parliament, no regulations had been created. The importance of those regulations were in fact to develop a psychoactives product approval process. And in fact that's one of the reasons that we're here today, is because the government to this day has not implemented a regime that would see us engage in a process that could deem products to be safe and fit for human consumption. Because one of the wins I believe we had on the Select Committee was actually to ensure that the purpose of this Act, and I am going to read it, was to regulate the availability of psychoactive substances in New Zealand to protect the health of and minimise harm to individuals who use psychoactive substances. And so as a House, as representatives of communities right across the country, we did recognise that we had to do something. And so I want to acknowledge the ministers that have been involved in this piece of legislation. Initially it was the Honourable Peter Dunn, then it was the Honourable Todd McLeay, and now we see the Honourable Tony Rowell, who was leading the passage of the Psychoactive Substances Amendment Bill through the House. But one of the major, issues of contention has been around Section 61A. And as a member of the Select Committee, we were really clear that we wanted to empower local communities to develop local approved product policy. And so what we saw was a very mobilised, energised community and local government sector who undertook that task earnestly. And so we saw Napier City Council come out in early January 2014 with a comprehensive local approved products policy. But the problem that we had was that the regime that should have regulated whether or not products were safe for consumption by New Zealanders was not implemented. To this day isn't implemented. I do want to highlight that as a member of the Select Committee, we weren't able to hear submissions about whether or not psychoactive substances should be tested on animals, and I would like to acknowledge Mojo Mabbers for the leadership that she showed in actually holding her own hearings and getting a lot of New Zealanders to make submissions outside of the Select Committee process. And in fact, my colleague, the Honourable Trevor Mallard, has been engaged in a process just recently that has led to 48,000 New Zealanders being very clear that we don't want to test these products on animals. And I just want to, for the record, clarify the position of the Honourable John Banks. On the 27th of June, in the second reading debate on the Psychoactive Substances Bill, he said, and I quote, "If you can't prove your newfound drug of choice is safe without putting animals in abject misery, you can't sell your drug." So the emphasis for the Honourable John Banks was in fact about protecting animals. And I understand that, and I commend him for that position. But when we look at his vote against the bill, it wasn't because he didn't want these products to be sold. He just didn't want animals used in the testing regime to determine whether or not those substances were safe. And I think we were all very clear as a parliament that prohibition from a central government perspective wasn't the solution, because we unfortunately have been flooded in terms of a market for this product. But what I would like to highlight in my final few minutes is two issues that I think are going to be really important going forward and that the Minister will have to oversee. One is around enforcement of the products. So a minute past midnight on Thursday, when this bill has assent and it becomes the law of the country, we have to make sure that police are empowered with the resources to ensure a black market doesn't develop. Because in fact that was one of the compelling reasons that we as a select committee approved this bill, because we were worried about the products that were in the country. The second is about the health and well-being of addicts and people through no fault of their own, because these products have been allowed to be sold in our communities. We need to ensure, and Minister, this is directly, I guess, under your responsibility, that people who have addictions, people who have mental health issues, people that need the support, whether it be counselling or other forms of support to help them through this process, and obviously none of us want people to transition from these drugs to other illegal drugs. They need support, and so it will be one of the critical follow-ups. And of course my colleague Ian Lees-Galloway, who holds this portfolio, will be... Oh.
Time has expired.
Oh, thank you, Mr Speaker.
Thank you. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Psychoactive Substances Amendment Bill, first reading.
The bill is set down for second reading forthwith.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Tony Ryle.
Mr Speaker, I move that the psychoactive